Morning came thin and gray over the stormlands, as if the land itself had forgotten what warmth was. The Golden Company camp did not sleep after the Raven's message. It pulsed all night with shouted orders, pounding boots, the clatter of armor as men ran to do something, anything, that made them feel less helpless. Fear made soldiers busy. It also made them stupid. Sunsorrow crouched beyond the outer tents like a living cliff, wings folded tight, tail curled, head lifted toward the north as if it could smell the cold on the wind. Smoke drifted from its nostrils in slow, irritated spirals. The beast had flown far and would fly farther if Jon let it. It wanted sky. It wanted hunting. It wanted the simple honesty of fire. Jon stood beside it, watching men stare at him as if he were the dragon's shadow made human. His hands throbbed beneath bandages. The cut on his forearm had been cleaned and wrapped again, but pain didn't care for clean cloth. Pain sat and waited. Aegon emerged from his tent at first light with Jon Connington a half-step behind, eyes hard and bloodshot. The young king's face was pale. The practiced calm tightened into something sharper. He looked less like a prince in a story now and more like a man realizing the story had teeth. Aegon stopped when he saw Sunsorrow fully in the morning light. His purple eyes flicked across the ridges, the scars, the sand-gold scales, the blackened spines. Hunger flashed there, quick and dangerous, before he buried it. Connington did not hide his hatred. His gaze burned at Jon like fire trapped behind glass. "We send riders," Aegon said immediately, voice clipped. "Fast ones, north, to see if this is truth or panic." "It's truth," Jon replied, and his voice was tired of being challenged. Aegon's jaw tightened. "I will not move my army blind," he said, "but I will not ignore this either. If Eastwatch has fallen, then the wall is bleeding." Connington's mouth twisted. "Then let the North deal with its own monsters," he said, contempt thick. "We came to take a throne." Jon's gaze snapped to him. "And you'll die on it," he said quietly. Connington's hand twitched toward his sword again. Reflex, stupidity. Aegon lifted a hand without looking, a small gesture that froze Connington in place. Aegon's gaze stayed on Jon. "What do you want from me?" he asked, blunt now that fear had burned diplomacy away. Jon did not hesitate. "Men," he said. "Steel. Food. Dragonglass if you can find it. And time. Stop pushing for King's Landing long enough to prepare. If you take the city while the north falls, you'll inherit a corpse." Aegon's nostrils flared. Pride fought, loud and stubborn. Then he exhaled hard. "I will send scouts," he said. "I will send supplies, and I will speak to my captains." Jon Connington's eyes flared. "Your Grace." Aegon cut him off, voice sharp as a whip. "Enough," he snapped. "If the wall falls, there is no throne. There is no realm. There is only death. I will not be king of ashes." Connington's face tightened, resentment and fear warring. He bowed stiffly, swallowing his anger like bitter wine. Aegon turned back to Jon. "You have a dragon," he said. "One." "I do not." Jon's mouth tightened. "Not yet," he said. Aegon's eyes narrowed. "That is an interesting choice of words," he murmured. Jon did not answer. The truth sat between them like a blade laid on a table. Jon's blood was not the only blood in the world that could wake fire. A gust of wind rolled through the camp, carrying the scent of wet earth and distant storm. Sunsorrow lifted its head and released a low rumble that vibrated through ground and bone. Soldiers flinched as if struck. Aegon watched the dragon, then looked back at Jon. "You will return to Dorne?" he asked. Jon's gaze went north instinctively. "I will," he said, "and then I will go where the war truly is." Aegon's jaw tightened. "If my scouts confirm this," he said, voice low, "then I will ride north myself." Connington's head snapped up. "No." Aegon ignored him. "A king does not hide while his realm dies," Aegon said, and for the first time his words sounded like something more than performance. Jon studied him, and for a heartbeat he saw the possibility. Aegon as ally rather than enemy. a dragon prince who might choose duty over pride. Then be quick, Jon said. Winter doesn't wait. They spoke again inside the tent, because kings could not afford to make decisions in open air where soldiers watched and rumors grew teeth. The map on Aegon's table had been rearranged. The north was pulled closer now, no longer a distant smear at the edge. Someone had laid a rough parchment over it with hasty marks. Keeps, roads, names written by men who had never cared for northern geography until the word dead made it matter. Aegon stood with both hands braced on the table, shoulders tense. Connington hovered behind, rigid, eyes sharp. Davos leaned in, pointing with a thick finger. Eastwatch is here, Davos said. If it's gone, the coast is open. Ships can't help much in ice, but the dead, if they're in the water too, then every harbor becomes a mouth. Aegon's gaze tightened. Dead in the water, he repeated softly, as if the phrase itself offended sense. How does a corpse swim? Jon's voice was flat. They don't need to breathe, he said. They don't need to float. They move until they reach you. Connington made a sound like disgust. Absurd. Jon did not look at him. Absurd is watching your friends stand back up after you bury them, Jon said. Absurd is seeing blue eyes in a face you loved. Aegon's throat worked. He swallowed hard, then forced himself to speak like a commander. Supplies, he said. How much do you need? As much as you can spare, Jon answered. Food, furs, steel, anything that keeps men alive long enough to fight. And dragonglass if your men have found any in old caches. Connington's lips curled. We are not miners. Aegon's gaze flicked to him, sharp. You will be if I command it, he said. Connington's face flushed, but he bowed stiffly again, swallowing. Aegon's eyes returned to Jon. And what of the south? He asked. If I slow my advance, the lions may fortify. The Tyrells may shift. Jon's jaw tightened. Let them fortify, he said. Stone burns. Men freeze. Either way, you'll fight them later. But you won't fight the dead later if you ignore them now. There is no later. Aegon stared at the map, the lines of the realm suddenly looking fragile. My claim, he said quietly, has been my life, everything I was taught, everything I crossed for. Jon's voice softened only slightly. Then save it, he said. Save the realm so there's something left to claim. Aegon's purple eyes lifted, locking on Jon's. And if the realm survives, he said, what then? 2 kings, 2 dragons, 2 claims. Jon's mouth tightened. Then we decide after, he said, if we're alive. Connington's voice cut in, unable to hold silence any longer. He is not what he says, he snapped, eyes burning at Jon. He wears a bastard name, but he speaks like what? Jon asked, turning slowly. Connington's face tightened. His eyes flicked, searching Jon's features like a man staring at a ghost in daylight. Like a dragon, he said finally, the word bitter. Aegon's gaze sharpened, suspicion flickering. You think he lies, Aegon said to Connington. I think he is dangerous, Connington replied. Dangerous to you, dangerous to your claim. Jon's voice was low. Your claim isn't threatened by me, he said. It's threatened by ice. Connington's jaw clenched. And yet, he said, voice shaking with restrained fury, you ride a dragon. Aegon's eyes narrowed. Enough, he said softly, and the softness was more frightening than shouting. We are done circling. He looked at Jon. I will send 300 men north within the week, he said. Scouts and hardened infantry. I will send supplies by wagon as far as roads allow. And I will send ravens to every lord I've won to my banner, commanding the same. Jon exhaled, relief and dread tangled. Good, he said. Aegon's gaze did not soften. And in return, he said, you will not fly that dragon over my camp again like a threat. Jon held his gaze. I didn't, he said. Aegon's mouth curved faintly. You did, he said, but I will allow it, because sometimes kings must be frightened into wisdom. Jon did not smile. Sometimes, he agreed. Aegon reached for a sealing ring and pressed wax onto parchment. You return to Dorne, he said, and tell Prince Doran that I will meet him, if the scouts confirm what you say. Not with envoys, with my own eyes. Connington's face went tight with alarm. Aegon did not look at him. A king must see his realm, he said again, as if repeating the lesson until everyone accepted it. Jon took the sealed message when Aegon handed it over. The wax was still warm. Be quick, Jon said once more. Aegon nodded once, the motion stiff. And you, he replied, be careful. Dragons draw arrows. Jon glanced toward the tent flap where Sunsorrow's shadow moved across canvas, dark as fate. I know, he said. Jon left before the camp could wake fully into gossip. Night hid movement better than daylight, and Jon needed less attention, not more. He did not want Connington's anger stewing into something worse while Jon lingered. He did not want Golden Company men testing their courage by creeping close to Sunsorrow with ropes and dreams. He walked to the dragon's resting place beyond the tents with Davos at his side. Davos did not speak until they stood near the massive head. The amber eye half-lidded, smoke curling lazily. You think that boy means it? Davos asked quietly. Jon's fingers tightened around Aegon's sealed letter. He's afraid, Jon said. Fear makes men honest sometimes. Davos snorted softly. Or it makes them cruel, he muttered. Jon looked at Sunsorrow's scales, the ridges that had become familiar under his hands. We don't have time to find out slowly, he said. Davos stepped closer, voice rough. And what about Connington? He asked. He'll poison the boy's ear the moment you're gone. Jon's jaw tightened. He already has, he said. But the raven did more than my words. Fear has a voice even Connington can't drown. Davos looked up at the dragon, his face lined. Just don't trust princes, he said. Jon's mouth twitched. I don't, he answered. I trust necessity. He climbed. His bandaged hands burned as they gripped the ridges, but he forced himself up with stubborn steadiness. The dragon shifted under him, muscles rolling like earth. Sunsorrow's head lifted, eye opening wider, awareness sharpening. Jon pressed his palm to warm scale. Home, he whispered. The dragon exhaled smoke, a rough sound like impatience. Davos stepped back, squinting up. Tell the princess? He began, then stopped, as if unsure what to say. Jon looked down at him. I will, he said. And if you get a raven from the north before I do, I'll find you, Davos said, fierce in his weathered face. Even if I have to climb that bloody thing myself. Jon huffed a breath that might have been laughter if his chest weren't so tight. He nodded once. Then he leaned forward. Up. Sunsorrow launched into night. The camp shrank instantly, fires becoming scattered stars on earth. The dragon's wings beat, and the wind tore at Jon's hair and cloak. The sealed letter in his fist felt heavier than iron, because it carried the weight of a realm's decision. Below, men pointed upward, tiny figures under a moving shadow. Jon did not look back. He aimed northeast first, toward the coast, because he did not want to fly straight over roads where riders might track his path. He wanted to vanish into darkness like a rumor. Sunsorrow climbed until the air grew cold enough to sting. Stars wheeled above, sharp and indifferent. Jon clenched his jaw and held on. Dorne waited, Arianne waited, and the north screamed in ink. They saw the ship at dawn. It cut through the coastal water like a knife, sails dark against the pale morning, moving too close to land, too purposeful to be a traitor. A small fortress sat on the cliff above, one of the Stormland's rough coastal keeps, its banners snapping in wind, watchfires still smoking from night. As Sunsorrow swept overhead, men on the battlements shouted and pointed, panic flaring. Crossbows rose, then wavered, then rose again as if courage might be found at the end of a bolt. Jon saw the warship below angle toward the harbor, oars biting water, and he felt the wrongness in it. A raiding ship, a spy ship, a knife sent by a lioness who did not yet understand that knives could be answered by flame. Sunsorrow's head turned toward it, amber eye narrowing, hunger stirring. Jon's chest tightened. If he let the dragon burn it, men would die. Sailors, yes, but also whoever stood too close, whoever was trapped below deck, whoever had no say in the Queen's orders. But if he did nothing, the ship would land, and knives would slip into more shadows, and the coast would become another mouth for fear. Jon tasted salt on the wind and thought of the assassins in Sunspear, thought of Sansa's inked warning, thought of the dead in the water at Eastwatch. He leaned forward, intent hard. "Burn it," he whispered. Sunsorrow did not hesitate. The dragon inhaled, throat glowing bright, and then fire poured out in a roaring stream. The flame struck the warship middeck. Wood ignited instantly. Sails caught like dry parchment. Men screamed and ran in frantic dots. The ship's pitch and tar exploded into black smoke. Jon watched it burn, jaw clenched, refusing to look away. He told himself this was mercy. Better to die by flame than by cold dead hands later. Better to remove the knife before it reached Sunspear's throat. On the battlements above, crossbows lowered. Men stared, frozen, as if watching a god settle an argument. The ship listed, fire eating through its spine. A mast collapsed with a crack that carried even up here. The hull began to split, and the sea rushed in like a mouth. Sunsorrow banked away, wings beating, smoke curling from its nostrils. Jon's stomach churned, not from the flight, but from the weight of what he had just done. The dragon's fire had been clean, efficient, without hesitation. Jon realized with sudden clarity. Each time he used that fire, it would become easier. Each time, the line between necessity and cruelty would blur. He pressed his forehead briefly against the dragon's neck ridges, breathing hard. "Not for pride," he whispered. "Never for pride." Sunsorrow rumbled low, indifferent to the nuance. Below, the ship sank in a pillar of smoke, and the day rose pale and sharp, as if the world had been cut open. Sunspear saw them before Jon touched ground. The dragon's shadow slid over the city at midday, and people in streets stopped, faces turning upward in practiced fear and awe. Children pointed. Old men muttered prayers. Guards gripped spears tighter and then remembered what spears meant against wings. Sunsorrow descended onto the ridge with a heavy thud, claws biting stone. Heat rolled out. The dragon folded its wings, and the sound of the membranes settling was like sails dropping after battle. Jon slid down, boots striking rock. His legs wobbled briefly. He steadied himself with one hand on warm scale, then turned. Arianne was already climbing the rocky path toward him. Her dress hitched up for speed, hair loose, eyes bright. Relief hit her face first, raw and unguarded. Then fury followed immediately, snapping into place like armor. "You left without me," she said as soon as she reached him, voice tight. Jon's mouth tightened. "I couldn't take you," he replied. Arianne's eyes flashed. "I know," she snapped. "I know what the beast thinks. I know what blood it listens to. But that does not make waiting easier." Jon held her gaze. He saw the tremor beneath her anger. He saw how the ridge wind made her look smaller than she wanted to be. He reached into his cloak and pulled out the sealed letter. "Aegon will send men," Jon said. Arianne's breath caught. Her eyes flicked to the wax, griffin seal still intact. "How many?" she demanded. 300 within the week," Jon said. "Scouts and hardened infantry. Supplies. Ravens to his lords." Arianne's jaw clenched. "And Connington?" she asked. Jon's gaze darkened. "He hates me," Jon said. "But the raven frightened the boy more than my words ever could." Arianne took the letter from his hand carefully, as if it might bite. She turned it over, studying the seal. Then she looked back at Jon, eyes narrowing. "And what did you promise in return?" she asked. Jon exhaled slowly. "Nothing," he said. "Not kneeling. Not a marriage pact. Not Dorne. I promised only that if the scouts confirmed the truth, Aegon will come see Doran with his own eyes. Arianne stared at him a long moment, then nodded once. Sharp approval. Good, she said. Because if he thinks he can bargain with us while the dead march, he's a fool. Prince Doran watched from the balcony above, his face unreadable. Arianne stood at his shoulder, long axe upright. Jon felt the prince's calm gaze land on him like a measured weight. Arianne stepped closer, lowering her voice. Did you burn anyone? She asked suddenly, and Jon heard what she meant. Did you become the thing you fear? Jon hesitated. Just a breath. Enough. Arianne's eyes sharpened, catching the truth. Jon's jaw tightened. A warship, he admitted, near the coast, heading toward land. It wasn't a trader. Arianne's mouth pressed into a thin line. Good, she said, and then softer. Be careful. Jon looked at her. I am, he said. Arianne's eyes held his. No, she murmured. Be careful of yourself. Fire doesn't only burn enemies. It burns the man who decides to use it. Jon's throat tightened. He nodded once. Above them, Sunsorrow shifted, tail scraping stone, smoke curling from its nostrils as if the dragon itself was impatient with human caution. Arianne turned, lifting her chin toward the balcony. Father, she called, voice carrying. We have the boy's answer. Doran's hand lifted slightly in acknowledgement. The war had widened, and now, at last, it had begun to unify. Prince Doran Martell broke the seal the way he did everything, carefully, as if the world might explode if handled roughly. Wax snapped, parchment unrolled. Aegon Targaryen's hand was clean and confident, the ink lines strong, the words measured. Doran read once without expression, then again, slower, the way a man reread a sentence that changed the shape of his life. Arianne stood at his shoulder, chin lifted, her anger contained behind stillness. Jon watched her fingers flex and relax at her side like a weapon being tested. Davos Seaworth hovered near the table, eyes narrowed, as if he expected the letter to lie. When Doran finished, he set the parchment down with a soft tap. He will send 300, he said quietly, and supplies, and he will command his lords to do the same. Arianne exhaled through her nose, sharp. Good, she said. Fear taught him faster than pride. Doran's eyes lifted to Jon. And you, he said. You taught him fear. Jon's jaw tightened. I showed him truth, he answered. Doran's gaze stayed calm. Truth delivered on wings, he murmured. The realm will not forget. Arianne's mouth twisted. Let them remember, she said. Let them choke on it. Doran lifted a hand, quieting the fire in her voice. We will use this, he said. Not waste it. He gestured toward the maps. We cannot send Dorne's spears north like a river in one surge, he continued. The roads will break. The storms will swallow wagons. But the sea is still a road, and Dorne knows sea roads. Davos stepped forward, practical as stone. White Harbor, he said. If we can get ships up the coast and around, Manderley men can carry supplies inland. Arianne's eyes sharpened. And the Stepstones? She asked. Pirates. Knives. Nymeria Sand's warning flickered in Jon's mind. The dark sails Jon had seen from the air. Too purposeful. Too neat. Doran's fingers tapped once on the table. Then we escort our own, he said. A convoy, warships, trusted captains. And Sunsorrow? Arianne asked, the name like a spark. Jon felt the bond tighten at the sound, as if the dragon heard even through stone. Sunsorrow can clear a path, Jon said. But fire at sea, it spreads fast. Doran's eyes were steady. Then we use it as shadow first, he said. As warning, as deterrent. Fire only when steel is already drawn. Arianne's gaze slid to Jon, reading the line beneath the instruction. Don't become what they fear. Don't become what they'll use against you. Jon nodded once. Doran's voice softened. We also send to the Citadel, he said. Maesters love facts. They will deny you until their ink is forced to change. Davos gave a grim little laugh. he muttered. And pigs will sing. Even pigs squeal when burned, Arianne snapped. Doran ignored the bitterness. Ario, he said. Ario Hoda inclined his head. You will double the guards, Doran said. Knives will come again. Lions do not stop clawing simply because they draw blood once. Ario's voice was simple. It will be done. Doran looked at Jon again. And you, he said, you will rest. You will heal. You will not fly north alone and leave Dorne in chaos. Jon's mouth tightened. The North will have your fire, Doran said, and there was steel under the calm now. But Dorne will have your presence until Dorne is ready to stand without you. Arianne's eyes held Jon's, fierce and unwillingly grateful. Outside, far above the palace stone, a low rumble rolled, deep, patient, alive. Sunsorrow was listening, and Sunspear, for the first time in generations, was no longer only waiting. King's Landing received the news the way it received everything. Late, twisted, and dripping with rumor. Cersei Lannister tore through the report as if paper could be strangled. The messenger who brought it stood sweating beneath her stare, eyes fixed on the floor like a man praying not to be noticed. A dragon, Cersei said, and her voice made the word obscene. A dragon in Dorne, and a warship burned on the coast like kindling. Qyburn stood to one side, hands folded, expression mild in the way of a man who enjoyed other people's panic. Ser Robert Strong loomed behind him, silent, helmeted, a knight-shaped threat that did not breathe the way living men did. Rumor grows teeth, your grace, Qyburn murmured. It may be exaggerated. Cersei's laugh snapped out, sharp and humorless. Exaggerated? She hissed. Tell that to the sailors who screamed while they burned. She paced the room like a caged cat, skirts whispering against stone. Outside, bells rang somewhere in the city, a faint chime of ordinary life that suddenly sounded insulting. A Martell princess married to a northern bastard, she said. A dragon perched above Sunspear. The realm is a farce. Qyburn's eyes flicked down to the map. If the dragon is real, he said softly, then fear will spread faster than armies. Lords will shift simply because they do not wish to be the first burned. Cersei stopped, staring at the table, her fingers curled. Then they will remember what fear truly is, she said. Qyburn's voice stayed gentle. You have preparations, he said. Cersei's gaze slid toward the back of the room, where clay jars sat half-hidden in shadow, their rims sealed, their contents sleeping green. Wildfire, the last mercy of mad kings and desperate queens. I have more than preparations, she said, voice lowering. I have answers. Qyburn inclined his head. Then we should decide where to point them. Cersei's jaw tightened. Not at Sunspear, she said, and the admission tasted like ash. Dorne is too far, too stubborn, too full of sand to drown properly. Her eyes narrowed, calculating. We cut their road, she said. We cut their allies. We cut the North's hope before it reaches them. Qyburn's brows lifted slightly. The Stepstones, he suggested. Cersei smiled, and it was the kind of smile that belonged on a corpse. The Stepstones, she agreed. Pirates love gold. Sell-sails love survival. And a queen loves men who do ugly work out of sight. Ser Robert Strong's gauntlet hand tightened once, metal creaking, as if even that dead thing could feel the room's heat. Cersei leaned closer to the map. And send more knives to Sunspear, she added. Not crude ones. Not fools who shout lion in their last breath. I want silence. I want poison. I want a death that looks like illness. Qyburn's lips curved faintly. As you command. Cersei's gaze lifted to the window where the city lay spread beneath pale morning haze, rooftops like scales. Let them have their dragon, she whispered. Let them feel powerful. Her eyes hardened. Dragons are still only flesh, she said. And flesh burns. Qyburn's voice was soft as a blade leaving its sheath. Everything burns, your grace. The trick is choosing what burns first. Cersei's smile returned, thin and vicious. Then we choose, she said, and somewhere far away, over a city of sun and spear, a dragon breathed smoke into bright sky, ignorant of the green fire waiting in the south. Sunspear turned into a hive. Crates thudded onto dock planks. Barrels rolled, sloshing. Nets of dried fruit and sacks of grain were hauled by sweating men whose hands were calloused from sea work, not war. Sailors shouted in Dornish, voices sharp, orders thrown like stones. The air tasted of salt and citrus and the new scent that had seeped into everything. Smoke. Davos Seaworth moved through it with the ease of a man who belonged on docks more than in palaces. He barked at captains, checked knots, inspected hulls, and cursed at lazy hands until they remembered what fear of a smuggler's temper felt like. Arianne walked beside him, her expression hard, her eyes missing nothing. She wore riding leathers instead of silk, hair braided tight, dagger visible at her belt. She looked less like a princess today and more like a commander who had decided she was done asking permission. "Too much wine," Davos muttered, slapping a cask. "That's not going north. Men need water and food, not drunk courage." Arianne's mouth twitched. "Sell it," she said. "Buy more grain." Davos glanced at her, surprised, then nodded, approval grudging. "You learn quick," he said. Arianne's eyes stayed on the ships. "I was raised in a palace," she replied. "But I was not raised stupid." Warships sat in the harbor like dark teeth. Sleek, fast hulls, Martell banners snapping. House Santigar's men stood on one deck, spears in hand. House Illyrian sailors worked another, faces tight. Even House Ironwood had contributed ships under Doran's cold insistence, though their eyes were sour. Areo Hoda stood near the gangplank of the lead vessel, long axe upright, a silent promise that Sunspear would not fall into chaos while ships sailed away. Guards watched every passerby twice now. Knives were expected like rain. As a crate was hoisted, Sunsorrow's shadow slid over the water. Men flinched. Some looked up instinctively, squinting into bright sky, searching for wings. The dragon was not above them at that moment. It rested on the ridge, but the mind could not separate shadow from beast anymore. Fear had learned new shapes. Arianne watched the men's reaction with an unreadable expression. "They're getting used to it," she said quietly. Davos snorted. "No one gets used to dragons," he muttered. "They just learn to pretend they have." Arianne's gaze sharpened. "And the Stepstones?" she asked. Davos's face went grim. "We'll hug the coast where we can," he said. "Send scouts ahead. And we pray we don't meet a fleet that wants our cargo more than we do." Arianne's mouth tightened. "Prayers again," she said, disdainful. Davos shrugged. "Prayers or knives," he said. "We use what we have." Arianne looked out over the sea, eyes narrowed. "If pirates come," she said softly, "we burn them." Davos glanced at her, then away, uneasy. "Burning at sea isn't clean," he warned. Arianne's eyes stayed hard. "Nothing is clean," she replied. Beyond the harbor, sunlight glittered like blades on waves. The road north lay in that shimmering line, long and treacherous. And somewhere along it, in the wrong place and the wrong time, Cersei Lannister's gold would begin to buy blood. Jon learned restraint the way men learned swordsmanship, through failure that hurt. They took Sunsorrow to open dunes beyond the canals, far enough that screams, human or dragon, would not send Sunspear into panic. Stone targets were set in the sand, rough pillars hauled from a quarry, spaced wide so fire would not leap to anything living. Ser Dayron Sand paced like a man walking the edge of a cliff. His burned face was set hard. "Again," he barked. Jon sat low on Sunsorrow's neck ridges, legs tight, bandaged hands gripping. The dragon's muscles shifted under him, impatient, wanting sky rather than drills. The wind blew hot and dry, and sand hissed across the ground like a warning. "Easy," Jon murmured, pressing calm into his body the way Doran had taught him. "Not words." "Intention." Sunsorrow's amber eye flicked back. The throat glow stirred faintly, then dimmed as the dragon huffed smoke. Doran pointed at the nearest stone target. "A thread," he snapped. "Not a flood. If you flood, you lose it. If you lose it, it burns what it wants." Obara Sand watched from the edge of the dunes, grinning like she'd paid to see this. Tyene stood beside her, serene, hands folded, eyes bright with dangerous interest. Arianne stood slightly apart, posture rigid, her gaze fixed on Jon like she could will him into control. Jon drew a slow breath and leaned forward. "Now," he whispered. Sunsorrow inhaled. Heat rose. Sand near the dragon's muzzle shimmered. Jon felt the pull, how easy it would be to let the dragon vomit a river of fire and turn everything into black glass. He felt the temptation in his own blood, hot and sharp, because power was a drug and fire was the purest form. "No," he whispered again, not as refusal but as shaping. Small. Sunsorrow's throat glow tightened, concentrated. Then a thin stream of flame lanced out, narrow as a spear, bright as the sun's heart. It struck the stone pillar and cut into it, melting rock into glowing slag that ran down like wax. The fire lasted only a heartbeat. Jon's lungs burned anyway, as if he'd breathed the flame himself. The pillar hissed and cracked, blackening, but it did not explode. The sand around it did not ignite. Doran let out a breath that sounded like grudging approval. "Better," he said. "Again." Jon swallowed, sweat running down his spine. "Again," he echoed. They did it 5 more times, and each time Sunsorrow fought him. Wanting more, wanting spectacle, wanting to remind the sky that it owned fire. Each time Jon forced himself into calm, into discipline, into the hard truth that a dragon's power meant nothing if it became uncontrolled slaughter. By the end, Jon's arms trembled from holding on. His bandages were damp with sweat and blood. Sunsorrow's nostrils smoked, annoyed. Arianne stepped closer once Jon slid down, her eyes scanning him. "You're shaking," she said. Jon flexed his fingers, pain flaring. "So is it," he replied, nodding at the dragon. Sunsorrow's tail flicked, irritated. Arianne's gaze lifted to the dragon, then back to Jon. "You can do it," she said, and there was no sweetness in the words, only certainty. "You can use fire without becoming fire." Jon looked at her and felt the weight of that hope. "I have to," he said. Behind them, Obara laughed softly. "Now," she said, "take that trick to the sea." Jon's stomach tightened, because that was exactly what Dorne's ships would need, and because he knew the sea would not forgive mistakes. While Dorne loaded ships, the Stormlands loaded men. Aegon Targaryen's camp turned into a marching machine, and the Golden Company took to it the way wolves took to snow. Quiet, efficient, hungry. 300 men were selected. Hardened infantry, scouts who knew forests, riders who could push horses until they bled. Supplies were stacked in neat piles, salted meat, grain, blankets, bundles of arrow shafts. Everything smelled of urgency now. Inside Aegon's tent, Jon Connington stood too close to the lantern, face carved tight. Sweat gleamed at his temple, though the night air had cooled. He gripped his griffin pin until his knuckles whitened. "This is madness," Connington hissed. "We are on the cusp of taking Storm's End, and you bleed our strength north because a bastard on a dragon told you ghost tales." Aegon's purple eyes held steady. "A raven told me," he said quietly, "and fear told me, and my own sense told me." Connington's jaw clenched. "Your claim," he began. "My claim dies if the realm dies," Aegon snapped, and the sharpness in his voice made captains go still. Connington stared at him, anger warring with something like pain. "You don't understand," he said, voice low, shaking. "I have carried you through shadows. I have bled for you. I have watched men die to keep your name clean. And now you let him." "Him," Aegon interrupted, and the word was dangerous. "Say his name." Connington's eyes flicked, reluctant. "Jon Snow," he spat. Aegon's gaze sharpened. "You look at him like you know him," he said. Connington went still. The lantern flame made shadows under his eyes deeper. "I knew his kind," Connington said finally. I knew princes. I knew the way blood lies. Aegon leaned forward slightly. You think he is a threat to me, he said. Connington's mouth tightened. He rides a dragon, he said. He married the woman who should have been your queen. He speaks of duty as if duty is his birthright. He is not just a northern bastard. He is... Connington stopped, breath catching, as if the truth tasted like ash. Aegon's eyes narrowed. He is what? He demanded. Connington swallowed, and for a heartbeat his composure cracked. He has Targaryen in him, he said, and the words came out like a curse. I can see it. I can feel it. That dragon does not accept just anyone. The tent held its breath. Aegon's face went still, but something flickered behind his eyes. Shock, then calculation. If that is true, he said slowly, then the realm has more ghosts than I thought. Connington's voice sharpened, desperate. Then you must be careful, he said. If he is who I suspect, your claim. My claim is not a child's toy, Aegon snapped. It will stand or fall on what I do now. Outside, boots pounded as the chosen 300 formed up, torches moving like a river of fire through darkness. Aegon stepped to the tent flap and looked out at his men. His face hardened into something more than princely performance. Send them, he ordered, and send ravens behind them. Every lord who has bent the knee to me will send the same. Connington's shoulders sagged a fraction, as if he had just lost a battle he'd been fighting alone. His eyes burned with resentment. And if the bastard truly is, he began. Aegon cut him off without turning. Then we will deal with it after, he said, voice cold. If we are alive to deal with anything. Connington's fingers tightened on the griffin pin. The lantern light caught something wrong on his skin for a heartbeat. An odd grayness at the edge of a glove, quickly hidden as he curled his hand. Aegon did not notice, or pretended not to. The 300 marched out into the night, heading north toward cold they could not imagine. And behind them, a king stayed in the Stormlands, staring at a map that suddenly looked too small to hold the dead. Winterfell received the South's fire as ink. Sansa Stark stood over a map in the Great Hall, its edges pinned by daggers and tankards. Torches burned, and beyond the open doors snow fell in a steady whisper, the flakes catching light like ash from a distant war. Maester Wolkan held the Raven Scroll with careful hands. His face had grown thinner in these months, as if the cold had eaten him slowly. Tormund Giantsbane stood nearby, towering, arms crossed, red beard bristling, watching Sansa with the wary respect of a man who had learned she was not soft. When Wolkan finished reading, the hall erupted, voices rising, men arguing over dragons in Dorne as if the words themselves were weapons. A dragon in Dorne, Lord Glover spat, half disbelief, half fear. A Martell princess wed to him. What next? Wolves with wings. Tormund muttered, eyes bright. I've seen worse. Sansa lifted her hand, and the hall quieted. Not because she was loud, but because she was cold enough to freeze noise. Enough, she said. She looked down at the map, at the crude mark near Sunspear, dragon, written by Wolkan in careful ink. The word looked absurd against northern parchment, like a summer flower pressed into snow. Jon is alive, she said, and the simple truth struck the room harder than any rumor. He has allies. He has Dorne. He has fire. A few men shifted, uncertain. Fire meant power. Fire also meant fear. And Eastwatch, Lady Mormont demanded, voice sharp, eyes fierce. Is it truly gone? Sansa's jaw tightened. It is, she said. Not as a rumor, as a wound. The wall is bleeding. The hall's breath caught. Sansa placed her gloved finger on the map at Winterfell. We don't wait for the South to decide if we're worth saving, she said. We prepare. She looked at the gathered lords, eyes hard. Every smith makes dragonglass heads until their hands bleed, she ordered. Every hunter brings meat, and if you hoard, you will be treated like a traitor. Every able-bodied man trains with spear and shield. And the women, she paused. letting them feel the weight of the word. The women will do what they always do, keep us alive while men pretend they're brave. Tormund's mouth twitched. I like her, he muttered. Sansa ignored him. Send ravens to the Vale, she said. To every house that still breathes and remembers it shares this world. Tell them the dead are not a story. Tell them to bring dragonglass. Tell them to bring fire if they have it. She hesitated only a heartbeat before adding, tell them Jon Snow has a dragon. The room went still at that, not because it was unbelievable now, but because it made the world feel suddenly wrong. Dragons belong to songs. Dragons belong to dead dynasties. Dragons did not belong to bastards raised in Winterfell. Sansa stared at the map and felt something tighten in her chest. Relief and terror tangled. Jon with fire. Jon with wings. Jon with the kind of power that killed as easily as it saved. She looked up at the lords again. Winterfell will not kneel, she said softly, but Winterfell will survive. And when Jon returns, he will find a north ready to stand. Outside, snow fell heavier, and the wind howled against stone. Somewhere far to the south, a dragon shadow crossed water, and the north at last began to believe in fire. Eastwatch did not fall like a castle fell in songs. It fell like breath leaving a body, quiet at first, then sudden, then final. Cotter Pike stood on the wall with ice in his beard and blood on his cheek, shouting until his voice broke. The sea below was wrong. It moved, but not like water. It carried shapes that should not have moved at all. Wrecked ships bumped against one another in the harbor. Their hulls cracked, masts snapped. Between them, bodies drifted, and then rose, hands clutching slick wood, dragging themselves up with slow patience. Blue eyes glowed in the dark like cold stars. Fire! Pike roared. Fire! Torches were thrust down. Pitch was poured. Flaming arrows hissed through wind. Some corpses burned and fell back into water, smoke rising, the smell of cooked meat mixing with salt. But more climbed. They did not scream. They did not hesitate. They did not care that flame ate their flesh. They came anyway, hands blackening, faces melting, eyes still blue. Men on the wall began to break. Some fled, sobbing. Some froze in place, staring as if their minds could not accept what they saw. Pike grabbed one by the collar and shook him. Move, he snarled. Move or die here like a fish. The man moved, fear finally turning into motion. The cold deepened. It wasn't only wind now. It was something heavier, something that made stone ache. Frost crept across iron. Torches guttered. Men's breath turned to crystals in their beards and lashes. Pike felt it like a hand around his throat. Down on the beach beyond the harbor, shapes moved through the dark. Tall, pale, quiet. Not corpses, not men. Something else watching, waiting, letting the dead do the messy work. Pike's stomach clenched. He stumbled into the rookery, hands numb, fingers clumsy. The maester had fled hours ago. Pike didn't need inked elegance. He needed a scream on parchment. Eastwatch by the Sea has fallen. Ships destroyed, dead in the water. The wall shudders. Send help. Send fire. He tied the scroll to the raven's leg with shaking hands. Fly, he whispered, and it wasn't a prayer. It was a command to the only thing in Eastwatch that still had wings. The raven leapt into the blizzard, vanishing instantly. Pike turned back toward the wall. The dead were already there. A corpse in Night's Watch black hauled itself over the parapet, jaw hanging wrong, fingers clawing. Pike drove his sword through its skull. The blade stuck for a heartbeat, ice freezing it in place, and he had to wrench hard to pull free. Hold, he rasped, though he knew holding was already a lie. The wall shuddered, a deep tremor that made men look up in terror. Ice cracked somewhere far along its length, a sound like the world splitting. Pike tasted bile and salt. He understood then what Jon Snow had tried to tell them all. This was not a battle. It was a flood. The captured assassin lasted less than an hour once Tyene Sand decided she was tired of lies. The cell was small, torchlit, smelling of damp stone and fear. The man sat chained to a ring in the wall, wrists raw, face bruised. He tried to keep his eyes defiant, but his breathing gave him away. Quick, shallow, the breath of a man who had watched his companions die and realized he was next. Tyene sat on a stool before him, hands folded in her lap, smile sweet as honey. A small vial rested on the table beside her, clear glass, pale liquid. Nymeria leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching with amused patience. Arianne stood behind Tyene, face cold, eyes sharp enough to cut. "You can tell us?" Tyene said softly. "Or you can tell us later. Later is always worse." The man spat, a thin gesture of pride. "I don't know anything," he rasped. Tyene's smile did not change. "Of course you do," she murmured, and she lifted the vial. Arianne's jaw tightened. "Tyene," she warned quietly. Tyene glanced back, still smiling. "Only enough," she said. "Only truth." She tipped one drop onto the assassin's tongue. The man jerked as if struck, eyes widening. His breath hitched. Sweat burst on his forehead instantly. He tried to bite down, but his jaw trembled. "Now," Tyene said gently. "Who paid you?" The assassin's voice cracked. "Gold," he gasped. Nymeria rolled her eyes. "Brilliant," she drawled. "From where?" The man's throat worked. "The Stepstones," he choked. "A broker, he said he served the queen. He said, Cersei Lannister." Arianne cut in, and the name was a blade. The man nodded frantically, tears leaking. She promised more," he wheezed. "She promised ships. Said pirates would hit your convoy. Said the dragon would be leashed." Arianne finished, voice deadly calm. Tyene's smile softened into something almost pitying. "Men love believing they can put ropes on gods," she whispered. The assassin gagged, pain twisting his face. "There's a fleet," he gasped. "Dark sails. Waiting. They'll strike when the ships leave Sunspear. They'll..." Nymeria's expression sharpened, amusement draining. "I knew it," she murmured. Arianne stepped forward, her voice low and cold. "How many?" she demanded. The assassin shook, teeth chattering. 8 ships, he rasped. "Fast. Not traitors. Killers." Arianne's gaze flicked to Nymeria. "Names?" Nymeria shrugged slightly. "Names are smoke," she said. "But ships burn." Arianne looked down at the assassin, and for a heartbeat her face was unreadable. Then it hardened. "Thank you," she said softly, and there was no gratitude in it, only finality. Tyene tipped the vial again, almost tender. "Sleep," she whispered. The assassin convulsed, eyes rolling back, breath ending in a wet sound that echoed off stone. Arianne turned away before the body slumped fully. "Get Davos," she ordered. "Get the captains. We sail with steel around our grain." Nymeria pushed off the wall, grin returning, sharper now. "And we tell Jon Snow," she said, "because if pirates want to taste dragonfire, I'd like to watch." Arianne's eyes flared. "Fire carefully," she snapped. Nymeria's smile widened. "Carefully?" she echoed, as if the word amused her. Above the palace, Sunsorrow rumbled, restless, as if it could smell the coming violence on the sea wind. The convoy left Sunspear under a sun that looked too innocent. Warships cut the water first, Martell banners snapping. Behind them came the heavy ships, grain and water and salted meat packed tight, the kind of cargo that mattered more than gold once winter arrived. Men on deck kept their hands near swords. Sailors scanned the horizon until their eyes ached. Arianne stood on the lead ship's forecastle in fitted armor that caught light like dull bronze. Her hair was braided tight beneath a helm. Her face was hard. She did not look like a woman leaving home. She looked like a woman taking responsibility and refusing to let the sea swallow it. Davos was everywhere at once, shouting, pointing, cursing. "Hold the line," he bellowed. "Keep the heavies behind. If you break formation, you die stupid." The Stepstones rose ahead like black teeth. jagged islands cutting the sea into narrow lanes where ships could be trapped. The air smelled wrong here. Too much pitch, too much smoke, too much human hunger. Then the dark sails appeared. 8 ships, fast, low, moving with predatory certainty. Their sails were black, their hulls painted dark, as if they meant to blend with shadow. Men crowded their decks, helmets, axes, grappling hooks. "Here they come," Arianne said, voice flat. Arrows flew first, a sudden hail. Martell shields rose. One sailor screamed as a shaft took him through the eye. He fell without a sound, body hitting deck like thrown meat. "Return fire," Davos roared. Dornish arrows hissed back, striking pirate wood and flesh. A man toppled over a railing, splashing into sea. Another took an arrow in the throat and fell clutching uselessly. The pirates surged anyway, closing fast. Grappling hooks arced through air, metal glinting. Arianne's hand tightened on the rail. "Now," she whispered, and the word was not command to men. It was command to sky. Sunsorrow arrived like a storm-made shadow. Its wings blotted the sun for a heartbeat. The wind from its beat slammed into waves, throwing spray. Men on pirate decks looked up and screamed. Real fear, not the practiced cruelty of raiders. Some dropped hooks. Some fell to their knees, hands raised. Jon rode low, body tight against the dragon's ridges. Arianne could not hear his words over wind and battle, but she saw his posture. Control forced into every muscle. Sunsorrow's head dipped. His throat glowed. Arianne's stomach clenched. Fire at sea was chaos. Fire did not only burn pirates. It burned wood, it burned ropes, it burned sailors who could not swim, it burned cargo meant to save the North. Jon's intent was razor-thin. A narrow lance of flame shot out. Not a flood, not a river, but a spear of heat. It struck the leading pirate ship's mast. Wood exploded into flame. Rigging snapped. The sail ignited like dry cloth. Men screamed and ran, tripping over one another. The ship lurched as the mast collapsed, smashing down onto deck, crushing bodies beneath burning timber. The pirates tried to wheel away, panic cracking their formation. Davos seized the moment. "Ram!" he shouted. "Ram that bastard while it's blind." A Martell warship surged forward, prow cutting water like a knife. It slammed into a pirate hull with a splintering crash. Men tumbled. Wood screamed. The sea foamed red. Arianne watched, jaw tight, as another pirate ship tried to slip around the flank toward the heavy grain vessel, toward the heart of the convoy. Sunsorrow banked, wings beating, and Jon turned the dragon sharply, guiding it with legs and breath. The dragon roared, furious at being held back from a full burn, but it obeyed the intent. It swooped low over waves, so close spray hit its scales and turned to steam. Jon aimed again, another thin stream, this time at the pirate ship's rudder. The flame struck, and the rudder blackened, cracked, then broke. The ship spun helplessly, crew screaming as they lost control. Martell arrows found them like judgment. Arianne's breath came hard. This was what control looked like. Not mercy, not cruelty, precision. Fire used like a blade rather than a torch. Still, bodies burned. Men drowned. The sea swallowed screams and gave back only foam. When the last pirate ship turned and fled, sails torn, crew broken, Sunsorrow circled above like a dark sun. Arianne stood on deck, armor spattered with spray and ash, and stared upward. She had asked for fire. Now she understood what it cost. They did not celebrate. There was no song for burned men in the water, no cheer for splintered hulls drifting like dead beasts. The convoy pressed north, sails full, warships guarding the heavy supply ships like wolves guarding a wounded packmate. Smoke rose behind them from a pirate wreck still burning, black against pale sky. The smell followed for miles, clinging to hair and cloth. The sea looked darker now, as if it had taken offense at fire. Arianne stood at the bow of the lead ship, staring forward, jaw clenched. Davos stood beside her, face grim, eyes scanning horizon as if expecting another set of dark sails to emerge from the world's edge. Above, Sunsorrow flew in slow circles, shadow passing over the ships like a moving dusk. Jon rode it low enough to be seen, high enough to be safe, keeping the dragon's impatience leashed by will alone. Arianne watched the dragon's shadow slide across the deck and felt the familiar ache. Pride, fear, and that bitter frustration of standing outside the bond. She could command men. She could command ships. She could command Dorne. She could not command the thing that now guarded them. Davos spoke without looking at her. "You did well," he said roughly. Arianne's mouth tightened. "Men died," she replied. Davos nodded once. "Men die," he said. "Better they die here than up north with no food and no steel. Better they die buying time." Arianne's eyes stayed on the dark line of clouds ahead. "Time," she murmured. "That's all anyone ever buys." A shadow crossed the deck again. Jon guided Sunsorrow closer, and for a heartbeat Arianne saw him clearly on the dragon's neck. Black against sky, bandages like pale marks on his hands, face set hard. He lowered Sunsorrow enough that his voice carried down, rough from wind. "Keep going," he called. "Don't stop for anything. If more sails come, signal me." Arianne lifted her chin. "And you?" she shouted back. Jon looked down at her, and something in his gaze softened despite the distance. "I'll fly ahead," he said. "White Harbor first, then Winterfell if I can. The North needs to see fire in the sky." Arianne's throat tightened. "Be careful," she called, and the words meant everything now. Jon nodded once. "Hold Dorne," he answered. "Hold yourself." The dragon's wings beat, and Sunsorrow climbed, circling once more over the convoy like a guardian shadow. Arianne watched until the dragon's shape became smaller against cloud. She was going north by ship into cold she had never known, carrying Dorne's grain and steel toward a war that did not care for sun or pride. Jon was going faster, alone on wings, toward snow and death. The sea wind shifted, colder now, and Arianne felt it like a hand touching her cheek. Winter was reaching, and somewhere beyond the horizon, in a land of ice and ancient trees, the dead were already moving. Slow, patient, unstoppable. This time, the living would meet them with spears, and with fire,